Hey, mamas, and welcome to the Entering Motherhood podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Marie Bilger, a wife, mom of two, VBAC mama, and doula. Here, we integrate holistic mindfulness and evidence-based practices to support you on your unique motherhood journey. Whether you're trying to conceive, pregnant, newly postpartum, or supporting mamas in this stage of life, you'll feel empowered and informed as you embrace what lies ahead. Join us every episode to learn from professionals, special guests, and moms just like you, ensuring that you know what you need to know and discover things that you didn't know before. I believe in you. Let's doula this and let's navigate the transition of entering motherhood together. Hey mamas, I am so excited to bring this episode to you. It is a long time coming. Christy and I recorded this episode a while ago, but I am super excited to finally be releasing this one and sharing this with you because she just has such a presence about her and has such a background in birth work and breath work and really just grounding us in those moments and having that ability to really be able to showcase what it can look like when we really step into that self-care and we really step into that breath work and we focus on the present moment. So she shares her personal experiences and she shares the work that she does with mothers now and all of her background in doing so. So this is going to be such a really authentic and down-to-earth grounding episode that I'm sure will just help ease you through this transition of motherhood and hopefully give you some insights and things to think about as you are progressing along your own motherhood journey. Grab a cup of coffee or whatever you're sipping on and enjoy this episode and just relax into it. Hello and welcome to Entering Motherhood. I am so excited to have you here today and really get this conversation started. So why don't we go ahead and start it off by introducing yourself?
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you, Sarah. I'm Christy Vaccari, and I am a mother's coach and a doula and a nutritionist and a yoga teacher, all those hats. And I've kind of in the last 10 years put them all together in a wonderful stew and have been really focusing on just coaching mothers and helping them through the process of not only becoming mothers through the birth process, but also the aftermath of what that feels like as they journey on into motherhood. I have 3 boys of my own. I did 3 home births and was blessed enough to have all of that go really well and have a really lovely time with all of my babies. They are now 18, 15, and 12, which is so crazy to say out loud. Yeah, all 3 boys. And we live in the San Francisco Bay Area. And it really has been quite a journey for me as a mom and now a single mom. All the ups and downs, all the joys and the challenges of it all. So I really love being able to support moms in this process. It's just such a good passion, but also a gift to me to be able to do it.
Yes. So let's kind of backtrack then to 18 plus years ago when you were first entering motherhood. Can you give us a little insight of what was going on in your life at that time and how you were feeling, how you were preparing? I mean, having a home birth for your very first pregnancy and birth experience, what was that like?
Well, I had just become a doula. I think I was newly in it for maybe a year. So I was still really fresh and learning how to do it all. And that all happened during a yoga training that I was taking. They had brought this doula in to help train us on what mothers were really going through so that we understood it more as we were teaching them. And I went home knowing that is really such an incredible thing to be able to help women on that journey through labor and delivery. And I just fell in love with it so much. So I think that helped to really inform me on, wanting more of a natural process in my birthing and my labor and delivery. And I was lucky enough to find the most amazing midwives to support me and also did dual care through the hospital so that when I had to do labs and things, I could just do it through my insurance. And I was doing a lot of yoga at the time. I probably was doing close to 3 hours a day for a lot of days because I was really deep into my teaching. So that really helped me be in a good physical and mental space to be able to birth well and take that on in a way where I wasn't in my fear space, because I think that's where we really get stuck when we're in the place of fear, thinking that it's going to be one way or worrying that it's something is going to go a certain way. And so I didn't really venture down those routes because I was really centered on my breath and on the positive experience of it all. And the home birth really was such a beautiful thing. We had a tub that we had rented. It did get to a point, actually, though, where things really slowed down because I was in the hot tub a little too long, I think, where I just started to get too relaxed, which I know that sounds funny, but I had to get out and move more to bring things, about into more activity. And it went really well. And I loved it and I wanted to do it again. And even after my third one, I wanted to do it again. There gets a point where you just get so into that feeling that empowers you and want to do it differently or better or try new things the next time around. And I really loved being a mom of babies, and I felt like I was really good. It was something that came very natural to me. I loved diving into all the different things. I was lucky to have no issues with breastfeeding at all and did that long term with all three of my boys. The first two I went for 2 years, and the last one I actually breastfed for 4 years because I knew he was my last, and I didn't want to let go and stop. And he loved it. So yeah, I was just really blessed in that, and it was such, yeah, just a beautiful journey. And then there were challenges along the way and things shifted.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
were some of, I guess, your major challenges or things that you vividly remember that you really try to instill in new moms now?
Well, the first one would be when you're a first time mom, it's you only know what you know, right? So you're really thinking, this is so hard. And it is. I'm moments where it's extremely hard, especially because of the lack of sleep. And I really love to be able to help mothers through that process, to put in perspective different things and to also give them different strategies and techniques where they can relax into it. Because when you are really anxious, you really bring that energy to the baby, and then it can, start to ripple in different negative ways. And so that would have been one of them where I was really nervous. My first time had a lot of the witching hour. And so around sunset, there was a lot of crying for a certain amount of time. And then we got over that, thankfully, and I was able to really navigate that so much better the second time around. And of course, each child is so different. And then my biggest, struggles as I had my third child was that I was really left alone in my parenting. Their dad worked quite a bit and wasn't really engaged in the process all that much. And I was, mothering majority of the time by myself with three children, a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a newborn baby. And it was hard. And I was lucky at the time to have a really good friend of mine. She was my best friend. We co-parented together, and she would come over and just help me through the process. I can remember having mastitis, and I was crawling toward my bed. She helped me into bed, kissed me on my face, put the blankets over me and a cup of tea next to my bed, and took care of the kids for me. And she had three of her own. If you're lucky enough to find friendship in that way and community in that way, it is just a saving grace in so many ways. But yeah, there were some, tough times for sure, but I really love being with my children, and I chose to be a mom that was really engaged in the process. So I wouldn't change that.
Yeah, I think, like there's so many different sides of it. Like it's like you said, like your first time mom, you're going through it. It seems challenging, but then you advance to a new level and there's new challenges and new experiences and new things. And so I think it's just like trying to remain present and trying to really root yourself in the moment that you're in and in that time that you're going through. So do you have any getting to that point or being able to like embrace the moment and root yourself in the present moment.
Yeah. And I think you're completely right. Because when we are in worry and anxiety, we're either living in past or we're living in future, right? So you're either upset about something that happened, or you didn't go the way you wanted it to go, or you're worrying about what's going to happen or could happen in front of you. So when you're able to really come back and be in the present, it allows you to kind of let go of all of that worrying and anxiety and possibilities that you have, ruminating in your head. So a lot of the things that I teach my moms are, first of all, starting with your breath and learning how to come to your breath so that you can self regulate. So when you are challenged, when you are extremely exhausted, you can really just for a moment take space in your own being, take a breath and regroup, and allow yourself to just, kind of review what's happening. And when you're able to do that, you can slow everything down so that it doesn't feel like it's rushing at you and like everything is emergency, right? And everything's so heightened. So using your breath is a really good one. There's a lot of great regulation techniques that you can use, tapping, shaking things out, even, just getting outside. If you're inside the house all day, it tends to really weigh on you and you see everything that needs to be done, the things that are broken and need fixing, all the endless laundry that for some reason does not disappear. And so really sometimes it's just about getting out. And I think for me, that really was a saving grace because I was so already rooted in my love of nature, taking the kids out all the time to be in nature and to play and allow them to get dirty and to be in water and to just explore. It was really a way for me to stay mentally in a good, positive place. And there's not a lot of no, when you're outside and you're in nature, there's a lot of yes, and there's a lot of exploring and a lot of curiosity. And it's also just the therapy of being in nature and breathing the air and smelling the smells and being around trees. Like you can't not be happy. And it really helps when your children are not in the house and constantly on tech or just in the way of things that you're trying to get done. And then you feel very torn between being with them and getting things done. So there's a lot of letting go of that too, where you have to say, I'm going to let this go for now so that I could be in the moment with them and allow myself to enjoy that because laundry is always going to be there. We may get better techniques of how to take care of it down the line, but our children really do grow fast. It's so cliche, but I can't believe my children are 18, 15, and 12. So I look back and I'm so grateful that I was that mom that got down and played with them and that I really did love up on them as much as I could. And I still do. And I'm really grateful. The other day, somebody pointed out that my 15-year-old was hugging me in public. And I feel like that's a great testament to the way that I raised them and that I spent time with them so that they still feel comfortable and very lovey with me.
And yeah, I think that's so important. And we sometimes don't realize these little moments and these little things that we're doing right now. Like even though they're so, young and itty bitty, or even, maybe they were just born or you're still pregnant, you don't realize that that connection is being formed from the start. And every little
Mhm.
thing is compiling on each other and building that relationship deeper and deeper. And so
That's so true. And when we think about that, because when they're in utero, they take on the pattern of our breath, right? So you just think about that. So yeah, that's really true. And it's a really cool thing to think about. We feel so powerless as moms a lot of time. But when you can really step back and see how much power you actually do have in influencing things in the way that you want them to be, I think the tiredness gets in the way. When we're really exhausted, we feel like we're not in charge or like we just don't have a handle on things. Or there's an expectation there where we think things have to be perfect.
kind of going back to your birthing experiences, what was maybe something that you were consistent with each of those? I know you said like each of them it was all home births.
Hmm.
So in that sense they were unmedicated. What were you consistently doing or from your first birth to your last birth? What were some things that you were changing to really create more of an experience that you were hoping for?
I followed spinning babies a lot. So, if you know that, I was really good about my posture and the way I held my body. It helped that I stayed with my yoga practice and my breath work. Breath work was really important because that's what keeps you out of your head, which is where all the trouble can come from. So it's really consistent about those things and also about my nutrition because I'm a nutritionist and just being able to really feed myself well really helped with my energy levels and also just the way that my pregnancies were going. I was really lucky to have such healthy, wonderful pregnancies with no issues. And I know that's not the case for everyone and it can be really, really difficult. So that was something that I was steadfast on and wanting to do home births because as a doula, I knew that that was what would work best for me. Ironically, since I work in the hospital, I'm not a person that likes hospitals. It's not a place that feels conducive to the way that I work well for me personally. But it can be beautiful. You can make it beautiful. It just wasn't what I wanted. So I was really wanting to make sure that each birth I had was in my home. And I was lucky enough to get the same midwife who was the most seasoned midwife in this area. I always had two midwives there with me. And the way that I labored did shift, and I wanted to do some things differently so that by the time I got to my second one, the labor went way too fast. It was like 2.5 hours, and I didn't have time to wrap my brain around it. And I wanted to do a water birth. And we specifically, when we bought this home, we have a mid-century modern home. There was a Japanese soak tub room. And when I saw that, when we were looking at the house, I was like, I am birthing my baby there. And I did. I birthed my second child in the Japanese soak tub. I was really happy to have that experience. And then by the third baby, he also came quick, but I was laboring for like an entire month. So on the night that he was coming, I thought it was just another day of that. And it happened to be New Year's Eve, and I sent everybody off to a party and then called them back, realizing that it was the real deal. And I put headphones on and listened to my favorite music that kept me really upbeat and positive and just bounced and danced around the house and kept it really calm and smooth. And so that by the time the first midwife showed up, she was like, let's go. It's time. And then the second one showed up and it was really pretty quick, that one as well. So all beautiful. And I feel really blessed and lucky to have had that experience.
Yeah. How did your doula work really coincide with the process of entering motherhood? You said that you were doing doula work beforehand and then, you had your children. How often were you still attending births? What was that like while you were breastfeeding? And how has your doula career and all the other different things that you're doing really evolved? And now you said that you have this whole merging of all those different avenues together.
Yeah, gosh, thinking back, it was so interesting because I would bring, my first son, I would bring him to yoga classes with me and have him push down on people. When he was a baby, he'd be sitting off to the side cooing. I'd stop while I was teaching, nursing him while people were doing yoga, and I'm teaching with him on the breast. Nutrition clients, I would ask beforehand, but they were pretty good about me having him in session. And then I ended up having a nanny share for a couple of days because it got a little bit too challenging, and babysitters to help me out, which were fabulous. And then by the time my second came, I can remember teaching at the rock climbing gym, and he would not, as a baby, go into daycare. And that was really challenging. And I was bringing the two of them with me everywhere. And so I had to increasingly let go of my yoga classes and some of the client work that I was doing. There were times where I had to have them brought to me at a woman's home while she was laboring to be breastfed because they refused to take the bottle. My third one in particular would not take the bottle. And it got to a point where, his dad was really nervous and my mom was actually visiting at that time and they were like, we need to come over. And they brought him to me. And of course, it worked out okay. And I had that happen a couple times at the hospital too, where I had to go out and nurse and then go back to my clients.
Oh,
And
wow.
and as I moved forward, it became increasingly harder to actually take birth clients because I just couldn't cover everything I was doing as a mom. I couldn't have somebody else do all of those things and leave to do a labor and then also not know. You don't know when somebody's going into labor, so it's hard to cover everything and it became really stressful. So I started taking less and less births and now predominantly have moved away from doing a lot of them. And I only take a few here and there and move more into things that I have more like control over my schedule with so that I don't feel so stressed out about waiting for somebody to go into labor and knowing, oh my gosh, there's all these things I'm going to have covered and who's going to do it. And especially now as a single parent, I don't have, anybody as backup to support me if somebody was to go into labor. So it shifts. My yoga practice has shifted as well several times over where I did more restorative yoga and less, flow and also just less time in one chunk where I'm spreading 20 minutes here, 10 minutes here, 20 minutes here of yoga practice as opposed to doing like, a full set hour and a half or so. But I think that's part of learning how to empower yourself too is yes, it's going to be a struggle. How can I make it work for me? And there were times where I wasn't good at it, where I completely lost taking care of myself and put everybody else's needs above mine. And that was a lot to do as well as that I didn't have a partner that was helping, in all the ways doing his part. But I find that as women, we're told that we're supposed to do that. We're supposed to put everyone before us. We're supposed to take care of everybody else's needs. And we don't really fit in the mix of it. And we're last on the list. And that's just really sad to me. And I feel like we're doing a disservice to our children as well because they're not seeing how important we are. And we're not teaching them how to take care of themselves by them seeing that we're doing it. So I'm really adamant about helping women through that process because it's really important, not only just for them, obviously function better as a mom and as a person if you're taken care of, but also your children need to know your priority, that you matter just as much. And when they see you taking care of yourself with all the self-care, they're like, oh, self-care is important. I need to take care of myself as well. So those are things that I really want to stay true to within myself as well as help, clients through the process. I think it's important.
Yeah. And what does that look like? I think the word doula is starting to become, I feel like a little bit more mainstream, but maybe because like I'm throwing myself more into it that I
Yeah.
hear it more often. But how would you explain sort of what you do as a doula and also then, the counterpart of how you work one-on-one with people?
I think where they come into, being very similar are that I'm supporting you through a process. And I try to, as a doula, the difference is that I try to be a little bit invisible in the process. And so if I'm at a labor, I want to make sure that if there's a partner there or a team of people there helping the mom, that I'm whispering to them or giving them a sign or a look that we worked on ahead of time for them to be able to bond and do the thing that needs to be done. I'm always, touching the mom, whether I'm massaging them, pressing on them, squeezing on them, helping them to get comfortable or shift into a posture. But I also try to really make sure that they're bonding with their partner in a way so that they're really close in the process. So supporting them in different ways, starts early on where we do a lot of the childbirth prep. But then through the process, I kind of try to get in the background a little bit more and do things very quietly. And then I, stay with them a little bit through postpartum. And most of my moms actually stay with me for like a year of the baby's life where I'm helping them with nutrition and sleep and breastfeeding and all of that. And as I move into mother's coaching, that's more of what I'm moving towards, right? I'm helping them with the breastfeeding and knowing how to situate their schedule and their rhythm in their household and in their family, how to help them find ways to find time for themselves, to not feel guilty about it, to understand that their needs are just as important. And how can we do both? And it's not seamless all the time that we do it. But when you have strategies, rituals, routines, it's so much more doable. You can grab things from your toolbox that you're building.
Yeah, I would say I completely agree with that. And I feel like when we have those tools and we have those resources and we have those systems in place, it one like just gives us a clear line of where we want to be and where we want to go. And I think understanding that, that can be customizable and unique and it's going to fit into our lifestyle, how we want to see it and how we want to be moving forward. It doesn't have to like look like everybody else or,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you don't have to have the same routines set in place as your friends or family and things like that. And understanding that like you are unique in your own motherhood journey and you're finding that system that works for you.
Yeah, and that's really challenging for a lot of people, I think, because it depends on who's surrounding you, right? If they're supporting you in that process and they're really wonderful about helping and encouraging you to be your individual self and being true to yourself and finding your own way, that's fabulous. But I feel like a lot of people are surrounded with people that want them to fit a certain mold and go a certain way. And you have family members telling you, no, don't do it that way, do it this way. And this is what it should look like. And that becomes really challenging as a mom because you're already so tired. Your hormones are all over the place. Your body's trying to get back into, a very strong state, both internally and externally. You have so many decisions that you have to make. Decision overload becomes an issue. And so when you're not having that support to be able to find and be okay that you do things a certain way and do them differently, and that's great for you. And I do think that the expectations that are out there where we see on social media, first of all, you're not seeing the full picture. You're seeing what people are presenting as their perfect life the majority of the time. And I'm starting to see more people who are being more real about it, which is so refreshing, right? When we see messy and all of it, because you're not alone. But when you're striving for something that A, maybe does not fit what feels good to you and will work for you and your family, and B, is not really the truth. It's not really all that easy for them. They're not living their best life. So let's take that mask away. Let's start to see how things really are for people. There's not one, mother that does not have a load or two of laundry around her and about, 10 decisions she has to make within an hour. The first hour of the day, think of your first hour of the day, what you do in a given, hour in the beginning of the day it is most challenging for us to think if we have to be perfect about everything, we are really setting ourselves up to be miserable because there's no way to do it all and do it well and feel good. We have to be vulnerable enough to ask for help, to be real about what our needs are, to know that we're not supposed to do it alone, and to really find the things that are going to serve us best. And maybe we're, inspired by other people, but you got to mold it into your own.
Yeah. I mean, I think that right there is so important and something that, I really try to instill in moms and tell them and have them, really just bring awareness to that. But what would be, maybe one final piece of advice or words of wisdom or, something that you would like to share with a mom who is entering motherhood?
First, I would say make sure you really talk to your partner. If you're doing it with a partner, make sure you are on the same page for what your expectations are with each other on what you take on with the baby and the children, because that needs to be, the number one thing that is agreed upon. I mean, it's going to shift during certain moments as different things come in, because different stressors may come in financially or changes with jobs or location where you're at and what help you have or don't have. But getting on the same page and really talking about all the stuff, like start talking to other people that have children so you can see what some of the struggles are and say, how do you think that we would handle this? What do you think you would want for this? And have all the conversations. Talk about where you are religiously, how you want to raise them that way, how, get real about all of the topics that are going to come at you, not just financially, how you are going to be supported, because there's so many decisions that need to be made. So I would start there. I would start with really having the true conversations and getting down and dirty with all that information. And then I would say really learn how to strategize taking care of yourself and helping each other as partners through that process so that you both have time to feed your inner being and also be a caretaker to yourself and each other that way, because it's so hard for the primary parent to do that because everybody's coming to them for everything. The teachers are coming to you. The children are coming to you. The majority of responsibility for all the decision making lies upon you. And so you can only hold so much. You need your partner, if you have one, to be able to come in and say, I've got this. And by the way, I'm not babysitting the children. I'm not helping you. I'm doing my part. And I love you, and now go do your part for you. So get strategies down and then help each other with those strategies so that you feed yourself in the ways that you need it and fit it in even when it's hard. But, also remember there's a fourth trimester. That's one thing that I think a lot of people don't think about too. And I'm sure you deal with that all the time, right? So many people don't think, oh, after I have the baby, I still have all this healing time. You're not meant to pop back right into life and do all the things. You're supposed to be cared for as the mom who just gave birth or even adopted a baby. You still need caretaking because there's so much that you're taking on. And that's a really big thing to get prepared for ahead of time. What is that going to look like, and who's going to help, and how will that really go more easily? It all takes prep work so really looking into those things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know that you and I can talk about all of this all day and
I know we have
so
so much
much
in
depth.
common, so much
Yeah.
passion about it. Yeah, I
And
know.
I
I love
mean,
it.
yeah, like that's why like I love having these conversations and I love really like exploring different people's, viewpoints and understandings of, their stage in motherhood and where they've come from and lessons that we can learn and ways that we can really like look at this time in our life in a different way and really, have that deeper conversation and have the deeper understanding. So thank you so much for having that conversation and
Well, thank you so much for doing what you do. Like, I am so happy to have found you on your podcast because I love that you are bringing it front and center to people and really opening mothers' eyes and having the real conversations, because not enough people talk about all of these things. And when you can normalize it, right, it becomes like, oh, even just saying like, oh yeah, me too. I'm going through that too. I understand that. It's really so helpful. We just need to keep talking about it and helping each other and supporting each other through the process. So thank you, because it's an important piece of the puzzle for us as moms to have other things like that, nurture us.
yeah. So where can we get in contact with you? Where can we reach you? What things do you have going on right now?
I have a really fun webinar coming up that's a free webinar called Empower Mamas. You'll be able to find me on Instagram at Christy Maya Co. That's KRISTYMIACO. And it has all the different links for the webinar on there. I'm so excited about that because it really will help moms reclaim their time and learn how to boundary set and empower themselves through setting boundaries and understanding what that is, as well as moving that into some techniques for self-care. So that's coming up on the 5th and 6th, and moving into my big course, which is the Empowered Mama. And you can find that on christymaya.com as well as on Instagram. And for your listeners, I also have 20% off for a couple of the different booklets that I have going on, which are one of them is strategies for self-regulation, and the other one is rituals for morning and evening routines. Both really, really helpful to get you in a place where you're regularly caring for yourself and doing the things that make you feel alive and in an optimal way of living. So there's a code for that. I think it's FEMSUP20 is the code, but you can find that on my Instagram. It will be on there, as well as the links to all that I'm just talking about. But I'm really excited because I feel like there's so much up and coming that I have to offer for everyone. And I can have my hands in a lot of pots, but I'm really trying to like hone in a little bit more and just focus on the things right now that are going to do the most service for people. And I think Empowered Mama is really such a great coaching program where I bring moms in and really help them through the process to live really the way that they want to live and feel very confident as well as empowered and calm, which is, what it's all about.
Yeah. And I will definitely, link all of that in the show notes and really, let people know where they can find you and get in contact with you and everything like that. Because
Great.
I think,
Thanks, Sarah.
like we said, we have so much in common and there's just so much there. And I think more and more of us need to be doing this work and really like being that person that moms can find and connect to when they want to be doing this like deeper work.
Yeah. And really knowing that it's there, it's available for you. People that I talk to, I think they feel shame around asking for help or going out and getting it, or like they're not a good enough mom or something. That is not the case. We all need it. We are all in desperate need of connection and belonging. And when we can get coaches and doulas to help us out, I have somebody right now who's asking me for night doulas. Don't feel shame around that. Those are things that we need. And if you have that availability to actually do that, go for it, because it will really help in motherhood. Why shouldn't we have that help? We're meant to be in community with each other, and we've become more transient, haven't we? Where we are not really with our families, our grandparents, our ancestors are not around us. We're more separated from everybody. And that's a sad thing because we're meant to do it surrounded by loved ones. So these are the things that will help us have a much easier and more enjoyable time in the process. Know that we're not alone.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much again. And this has been an amazing conversation.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you, mamas, so much for listening. Remember, you are a rock star. I believe in you. Let's doula this. Let's crank it up a notch and let's kick it into high gear together. Hit that subscribe button, share this episode with a friend, message me, email me, call me, beat me. You know how to reach me. We're doing this, mamas. I am so excited to catch you here next week. This is your one-stop go-to place for helping you find the resources you need to make the best choices for you and your family during pregnancy, birth, and most importantly, postpartum. See you later, mamas.